Hello everyone, welcome to the EasyPower Thursday Refresher webinar series. My name is Jim Chastain. I'm in Applications with EasyPower. And before we introduce our guest speaker for a topic that's very timely for the market conditions right now, as we are in the habit of doing, I'd like to run a couple poll questions to get some feedback and understand perspective of the audience and their kind of interests. So again, welcome everyone. And if you will, help us participate by participating in the poll question. First is, do workers in your facility share PPE? And so obviously there's no obligation, but we would appreciate some feedback as far as your situation. And give this about another 10 seconds. Looks like we got a quorum. Excellent, thank you. And here folks have weighed in on this. And the second question is, how do you clean or launder PPE currently? Again, this pertains more than just Arc Flash PPE, but we're specifically talking about Arc Flash PPE today. Let's give this another 10 seconds or so. All right, thank you. And then finally, has the current situation given you pause to change things as far as the procedures used for PPE? Again, some of us aren't even back in the plant, so things haven't been really modified or pushed to the limit yet. All right, looks like we have a quorum there. Thank you again for attending and participating. Here's how everyone weighed in there. So now I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, who is a principal at Unlimited PPE, Mr. Jim Pollard. And give me just a second and I will pass the baton. Hey, Jim, the podium is yours.
Thank you so much, Jim. So thank you for having me. It's a privilege and an honor. So I'm looking forward to delivering this presentation. So it is sharing is not caring when it comes to Arc Flash PPE. So a quick disclaimer just to start. So this webinar does not provide health advice. It's important to note this. It's me as the presenter. I am not an epidemiologist, a virologist, or any other authority on preventing virus transmission. The opinions expressed are my own personal beliefs, and with your equipment manufacturer for guidance on proper care and use of your PPE. So Unlimited PPE, I started this company back in 2008, so about 12 years ago now, representing the Oberon company, PROXXI, as well as training and consulting. I'm heavily involved in standards development, product research, and testing. I've done a fair amount of keynote speaking, providing webinars like today, and I offer a lot of free, no-cost care and use training courses to support Oberon and my vendors. For the presentation today, we're going to run through approximately 45 minutes. I want to cover some of the background, cleaning and disinfecting, PPE management, so tools that you could take away from today's webinar that you could apply at your workplace. And then hopefully we'll have time at the end for Q&A. This is actually the first time I've run this webinar or this presentation, so go easy on me there. I wrote this article in, gosh, it's 3 months ago now. And it was, so the webinar is based on the article, and I wrote it back in mid-March. And this was during the height of COVID-19 hysteria, when information on virus transmission was changing daily, sometimes hourly. At the time, Oberon was inundated with requests for guidance on how to share Arc Flash PPE during a global pandemic. Even still to this day, the world's scientific community continues to learn about how the virus that causes COVID-19 is transmitted. So it's evolving science. Electrical specific personal protective equipment, or PPE, consists of products specially designed for protection for arc flash and shock hazards. For decades, workers have been sharing this due to both cost and the frequency of use. Many employers would have only a few arc flash suits that are for share when needed, just as one example. Now, commonly shared types of PPE, with Arc Flash PPE, there are products designed for all-day use and other products that are needed for short-term use. The industry refers to the different products as either daily wear or task wear. For workers that frequently require Arc Flash PPE, they often wear arc-rated uniforms all day, every day. These uniforms are individually issued and not typically shared. However, all of the other products that are commonly shared, including face shields, hoods, suits, coveralls, cooling vests, tools, and even sometimes the gloves used for shock protection. Workers who share PPE are at a higher risk of being exposed to the virus that causes COVID-19. In this regard, sharing is not caring. Actually caring about your workers or our workers requires employers to rethink how PPE is used in their workplace and to issue individually assigned equipment when necessary. Any PPE tools or equipment that must be shared among workers must first be cleaned and disinfected before each use. The best way to protect workers from cross-contamination is to stop sharing Arc Flash PPE. Suit hoods and face shields are particularly high risk due to their proximity to the worker's mouth and nose. Every time you exhale, cough, or sneeze, your bodily fluids can be deposited on the interior of the shield or the fabric in the case of a hood. Even outerwear garments, such as the suit coats, they can become contaminated when workers dutifully and conscientiously cough or sneeze into their arm. The safest solution is to individually assign all Arc Flash PPE and prohibiting workers from sharing any PPE that cannot be effectively cleaned and disinfected before each use. In all situations where PPE, tools, and equipment are used by workers, employers must ensure all surfaces that can be touched have been cleaned and disinfected. However, cleaning is not the same as disinfecting. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, define cleaning versus disinfecting as cleaning refers to the removal of germs, dirt, and impurities from surfaces. Cleaning does not kill germs, but by removing them, it lowers their numbers and the risk of spreading infection. And they define disinfecting, referring to the use of chemicals to kill germs on surfaces. This process does not necessarily clean dirty surfaces or remove germs, but by killing germs on a surface after cleaning, it can further lower the risk of spreading infection. Follow the CDC, the World Health Organization, or WHO, and other health authorities for guidance on how to reduce or eliminate the spread of the COVID-19 virus in your workplace. These are the sources that I went to in researching my article 3 months ago, and they continue to change. Information related to COVID-19 is constantly changing as we learn more about this deadly disease. Current evidence suggests that the COVID-19 virus is highly contagious and can survive on Arc Flash PPE and remain viable for hours up to days. Spread through aerosol droplets is far more likely than control virus from touching a surface, but we can't completely rule this out. The World Health Organization provides additional guidance. What they state is it is not certain how long the virus that causes COVID-19 survives on surfaces, but it seems to behave like other coronaviruses. Studies suggest that coronaviruses may persist on surfaces for a few hours or up to several days. And this may vary under different conditions and such as the type of surface, temperature, or humidity of the environment. So again, just follow the CDC or health authorities for guidance. Employers must protect their workers from sources of harm. This is general duty clause from OSHA, from other authorities. This applies to all risks in the workplace, including the potential for contracting a deadly disease. Develop procedures that address how to manage the use of short-term task wear PPE An example could be to individually assign all PPE that is at the highest risk for transmitting a virus. By issuing personally assigned hoods, balaclavas, gloves, and face shields, employers can reduce the risk of an outbreak. When developing procedures, reference industry standards for guidance. The NFP 70E and CSA Z462 standards provide care and use instructions for PPE. Those standards then point to additional standards that will help further the development of your procedures. And the examples being ASTM standards. And ASTM has standards on laundering, so both home laundering and industrial laundering services are acceptable. Follow the manufacturer's instructions and consult with the applicable ASTM standard to ensure you don't compromise the protective properties of your equipment. ASTM F2757 is for home laundering, and ASTM F1449 is for industrial laundering. There are both porous and non-porous surfaces with which we should be concerned. Equipment should be cleaned first before it can be disinfected. Hard, non-porous surfaces such as arc flash face shields, suit hood shield windows, hard hats, and other plastic components can be disinfected using disinfectant sprays or wipes. Consult with the manufacturer before using any disinfectants because non-durable surfaces could be damaged. I'm specifically referring to the lens in your arc flash suit hood or your face shield. For porous surfaces, such as arc-rated fabrics, proper cleaning can be an effective way to wash out the COVID-19 virus from clothing. All arc-rated garments must be removed from service and cleaned as per the manufacturer's instructions. This process might include fully disassembling arc flash suit hoods to separate the fabric portion from the other hood components. The garments and the hood fabric portion should be washed according to the product labels and thoroughly dried before its next use. I recall the CDC having explicit requirements regarding washing, that it has to be dried thoroughly, and I believe heat has a big part to play in that. Another idea is to wait long enough between uses, allowing the PPE time to exceed the efficacy of the virus. While this might be effective, there are no definitive timelines that I've seen as to when the virus is no longer a threat. Furthermore, you would need to be extremely diligent about documenting when PPE was last used to ensure sufficient time has passed. This idea, as much as some companies are attempting to use it, I personally wouldn't support it without having more evidence that I could use in referencing studies and other research that definitively tells me when that virus is no longer viable on that surface. Other resources in industry, so refer to industry resources for additional guidance. I'm using an example here with eHazard and Arcware. Frequently publish great materials on arc flash and shock PPE. In April, they published a short video in their blog on the use of Lysol spray on porous material. The test strip on the left, if you're looking at the image on the screen, on the left that was sprayed once and allowed to dry. The middle was sprayed 50 times and allowed to dry each time. And the far right was sprayed but still wet. And as you could see, the far right fabric panel completely lit on fire in this vertical flame test, demonstrating that any use of Lysol as they performed it in this test setup must be allowed to fully dry before using the product for protection from thermal hazards. Now, going back to Hugh Hoagland's site, to eHazard's site, I did see that the blog post has since been updated to state that this is not a recommended use of Lysol spray, and the method may not be effective on coronavirus. They are only certified for use on these viruses on hard surfaces, and it requires sufficient spray to be wet for 10 minutes on those surfaces. Additionally, they also do not recommend using the spray even dry on something next to the face For more information and to watch this video, go to their website at e-hazard.com. Unlike porous materials, cleaning and disinfecting non-porous surfaces is much easier. For example, Oberon instructions include using room temperature tap water to flush away dirt or grit to clean their face shields and the suit hood shield windows. Then use a soft cloth with isopropyl alcohol to wipe on both sides of the shield to disinfect the surface. This process may leave streaks on the surface as the alcohol dries, so use a separate clean soft cloth to wipe away any of the streaks. Ensure the products are completely dry before use. If your product is not manufactured by Oberon, remember to check with them first before using any of these disinfectants to avoid damaging the coatings or the plastic. And examples would be on the inside of an Arc Flash face shield, you're often going to find anti-fog coatings. If you're using a disinfectant that might negatively, I guess, work with that anti-fog coating, it could actually take away the coating. It could mar the surface. You could anti-scratch coating or even the plastic itself. So just make sure you check with the manufacturer before you go and start using any disinfectants on their products. When disassembling your Arc Flash suit hood, some products are easier than others. For example, Oberon strongly believes that their style hood is the safest for workers. They design their hoods so workers can easily disassemble and reassemble on their own. When laundering Arc Flash suit hoods, be sure to only launder the fabric portion. Some things are common sense, but we just want to make sure we don't throw the whole hood with the lens and the hard hat and other components into the washing machine. In this picture, the hood on the left has all those components installed. And then on the right-hand side, this is the fabric shell. You know, it's sort of like letting the air out of the balloon. On the left, it's fully inflated, and on the right, it's just the fabric that you would actually put into the laundry. Always consult with the manufacturer for instructions on how to use their products. This is something that I do frequently with my clients, is provide this type of instruction at no cost. Here I've shown a simple step-by-step process for an Oberon hood. Contact me directly and I'll share my YouTube video and additional instructions and helpful tips. You can see that there's just a few simple steps. Step one is we want to remove some of these components. So you're seeing there's an LED light on the front at basically right above your nose where it should be for a light. We take that off. Inside of the hood, there's a hard hat installed. Now step two, once the hard hat's out of there, is we can remove the adapters. And there's basically these pronged adapters that click accessory slots in the hard hat. So you want to remove those from the hood. Step three, you can see that there's a hood ventilation system installed here. This has a zipper design, so all you would do here is unzip the hood ventilation system and remove it from the hood. And step four is remove the lens. In this case, these lenses they're snapped in place, and those snaps are just buried between layers of fabric. So you would just pull the fabric back, you would unsnap the lens, you can pull it free, so you can see the lens kind of on its own down here at the bottom, and the individual components are on the bottom right, which are the adapter components and the LED light. The hard hat would also be something that you would have removed in order to get this down to the fabric shell itself. When laundering any arc-rated fabric, follow the label. The ASTM standards require the manufacturer to label the garments with laundering instructions. With the Oberon equipment, I can speak from my own personal experience. Those labels are heat applied or heat transfer applied to the garment, so they should be permanently installed in the garment. There is a great deal of information provided on the label. Most manufacturers are going to have this information there for you. Go to their website as an additional guidance. I know from Oberon's perspective, we have everything listed for care and use documentation for you to follow. So if the laundry guide is on the label, but also from the manufacturer on their websites. Now, Arc Flash suits, these garments can be highly specialized with additional safety features. Before laundering, be sure to completely close all the zippers and seal any Velcro closures. This example shown here includes a new life-saving feature called the escape strap. So if you start to see these suits in your workplace, it's a special feature to simply wrap the Kevlar cord and tuck it away in the back pocket before laundering. You want to make sure that all the Velcro is closed, because those hook and loops, so the hook component, it will grab at the fabric as it's tumbling, if you're going to tumble dry this after washing. So just seal all that up, zipper close if you have leg zippers, of course the front closure on a coat. Many of these suits have a dual stage closure where you have the zipper and then you have a Velcro flap over top. So just seal that up before you go and put that through the wash cycle. Using mild soap or detergent and water is an excellent way to clean the virus off your hands and your rubber insulating gloves. Refer to ASTM F496 for guidance on cleaning and disinfecting the gloves. Be mindful about the type of hand sanitizer your workers may be using, and refer to the manufacturer for guidance on what types are acceptable. So this type of product is a rubber insulating glove. It's used for shock protection. You would have a leather glove protector to go over top of it. It's not common that these items are shared, but it does happen. So I wanted to include guidance here in the presentation. Other tools and equipment mostly consist of hard, non-porous surfaces that are easier to clean and disinfect. Again, contact the manufacturer for their recommendations, which it could be as simple as using Lysol wipes. I've received several inquiries about using ozone chambers to disinfect Arc Flash PPE, similar to what is used in other industries. Until a study can be completed, including Arc Flash testing, I'm not recommending any of these alternative solutions. Please contact me offline if you would like resources on the effect of ozone on aramid fiber, such as Kevlar. You know, there's a research paper from DuPont that I could share in that case. This is an evolving topic. I know I've made several offers to my clients to work with us and test products after exposure to the ozone chambers, just to determine the effectiveness or lack thereof in terms of the how the product performs in an Arc Flash test. So that's something that, just keep in mind, there are lots of other ideas that are surfacing, but until we get a chance to study those and to test them, I'm not subscribing to those just yet myself. Update your electrical safety program with your new policies, procedures, and safety-related work methods for cleaning and disinfecting Arc Flash and Shock PPE. You see here, it's an example on the screen of an energized electrical job risk assessment form. There's a great deal of information there regarding PPE. I would want you to update that accordingly based on the changes you're making in your workplace to respond to our current pandemic. Not to mention, this is COVID-19. I mean, what happens when we have COVID 20 or 21? I mean, I really don't want to think in those terms, but we need to be realists and we need to be prepared for the next time. So a lot of what I'm seeing happening in the workplace with respect to COVID-19's impact, it's been an accelerant where these changes were coming regardless, and this is now accelerating the process of those changes happening. Sharing PPE was never a great idea. It's called personal protective equipment, you know, for a reason, and that's it. It should be personally used. One size does not fit all. This is something that I've seen countless times over the past 15, 16 years of my experience with Arc Flash PPE, is companies that buy a large size suit and just want everybody to wear it. It's a terrible idea. If you're using Arc Flash suits, you really need to make sure they're sized appropriately. So size selection is critical to that process and to the success of the product. In fact, if the suit does not fit properly, it could impact the protection provided by the suit. We want suits to fit nice and loose and to have a sufficient air gap in between the layers, allowing workers to move. Freedom of movement is part of the ability to perform work without creating a burden. We don't want to have somebody very large try to wear a small suit, or we don't want somebody small and a smaller person to wear a very large suit. That it could create a tripping hazard, for example, and just make it very difficult to perform their work tasks. When it comes to thermal protection of these products, if it's a tight-fitting suit, it decreases your protection significantly. So that's something that we've learned through extended duration to thermal exposures in different laboratories. So just bear in mind that sizing is really important. You could use sizing charts if you're going to go and procure additional products as part of individual assignments, trying to move away from sharing Arc Flash PPE. You could refer to sizing charts. What I like to do, if it's possible, is to use a fitting kit. So there's basically sizing garments. You could gap size. You could use sizes go from small up to 5XL in my world, but we've made suits as big as 8XL. If you have individuals that are very tall, they actually need a custom fit. They need a tall size suit, just like individuals that are very short need a short size suit. So sizing is important to the worker safety, and if you're going to go that route, to spend the extra time in the size selection process. When you are providing any PPE to workers, it is important, and is actually a requirement by law, that you provide care and use training. You can't just simply give a worker their Arc Flash PPE and cross your fingers and hope they know how to use it. It is a requirement from 70E and Z462. They provide some guidance as to what needs to be included in care and use training. I know on the screen here I have a few examples from Oberon's website, and these are learning aids or tools that I've used with some of my clients. So, for example, pre-use inspection. You got to teach workers how to inspect their PPE, and these are the steps or the stages I would recommend that you start to build in these additional procedures for cleaning and disinfecting the PPE between use. If you are sharing PPE, it's critical that you clean and disinfect between use. Now, there's lots of different methods that people are trying, but we know for certain that from all the indicators from the CDC and other resources that washing the fabrics is the best way to remove the potential for that cross-contamination and a potential outbreak in your workplace. Contact my company, contact your manufacturer, contact your resources for additional information, or in my case, to schedule some care and use training. If you're going to give workers individual hoods and have them share the coat and bib overall of their Arc Flash suit, that's one method. You could have workers wear masks while they're using masks and gloves while they're using the products. I've seen that happening in some workplaces now. We want to make sure that if you can at all, that you individually assign the products that are at the highest risk to the worker, which is anything around your face. And that's your face shields, your hoods, of course, balaclavas. Even a balaclava can be used as a hygiene barrier inside of a hood. So there's lots of considerations, and you can contact us for some additional ideas offline. The current global pandemic acutely highlights the necessity to stop sharing Arc Flash PPE. We are dealing with a sober reality. Sharing PPE between workers should be prohibited unless the products can be cleaned and disinfected between uses. The risk of cross-contamination between workers is simply unacceptable. There is currently no consensus as to how long the COVID-19 virus can remain on Arc Flash PPE surfaces, either porous or non-porous. For now, and for any future viruses, the safest, most effective way to prevent the spread of infectious diseases is to keep our workers healthy, and to individually assign Arc Flash PPE to every worker requiring it. We must all work together to help stem the spread of the virus that causes COVID-19. Jim, if you're still listening, I ran through my presentation a little faster than I expected, but we did leave lots of time for Q&A.
Sure.
So,
not a problem. A very timely information. So yeah, now's a good time if you would like to use the question to submit and get an online response from Jim. And I thought the images you used were extremely useful, very informative, especially for areas that I don't necessarily come in contact with on a frequent basis.
Thank you.
Well, I don't see that anybody's jumping in there with requirements, so I think it's okay for us to sign off. Certainly, if you would please utilize the survey at the end of the session if you'd like someone to contact you. Jim, thank you very much for your contributions, and we'll talk to everyone at a later date. So long.
Thank you. Bye-bye.